But listen. Shout to NBA Youngboy. You give me $100 million, I'm gonna say stop the violence too. Cause now he on a whole nother tax bracket. You know what I mean? So it's like, congratulations to him. Cause he's one of the top dogs out here. So I mean, like I said, you give me $100 million, stop the violence, baby. You know, stop the violence. Cause now the people are watching you, wanting to take that money from you. So stop the violence, man.
Yo, don't drop the low. Don't drop the low. That's the clip that set the tone. Not a diss track, not a fight video, not a mugshot. A warning. People in the comments weren't laughing. They weren't trolling. They were panicking. Because once someone says don't drop the location, it means the situation already crossed a line. And that's exactly what happened here. This didn't start with violence. It didn't even start with beef. It started with something that looked harmless on the surface: advice. An older man stepping in under a public post, telling a young rapper that money doesn't bring happiness and maybe therapy could help. Calm words, measured tone, no insults, but in the wrong context, at the wrong time, from the wrong person, advice can sound like disrespect. And when that advice came from the father of an NBA star who's dating Youngboy's ex, it stopped being fatherly wisdom and started feeling like a public jab. Then came the tweets. You'll get slapped. That wasn't a joke, it wasn't sarcasm, and it wasn't vague. Now we've got emotional posts, family members involved, locations being dropped, and fans screaming in comment sections like they know something we don't. This isn't about hype. It's not about picking sides. It's about understanding how something small spiraled into something that feels dangerous. Because when advice turns into a threat, it means pride got involved. And when pride gets involved in situations like this, things don't cool off easily. Let's break down how we got here, step by step, and why this might be bigger than just one comment under a tweet. Why before any threats, before any location drops, before any father stepped in, there were tweets. And not just random flexing or promo posts, these were emotional, raw, almost uncomfortable to read. Youngboy got on social media and started venting in a way we've seen before, but this time it felt heavier. He talked about being lonely. He talked about not feeling healthy. He said he was scared to sleep. He mentioned feeling like he wasn't enough. That's not typical rap talk. That's someone spiraling in real time. Now here's the thing about YB. When he gets vulnerable online, it usually means something is already boiling behind the scenes. His Twitter has always been like a pressure valve. When life gets loud, he types. But this time, it wasn't just sadness. It slowly shifted into frustration. He started referencing baby mamas. He hinted at feeling betrayed. He made comments about loyalty and people not being solid. It wasn't direct. No names, no tagging. But if you follow the timeline, you could feel the tension building. And the internet noticed immediately. People started speculating. Was he talking about Jania? Was it about co-parenting drama? Was it jealousy? Or was it deeper than that? Because here's the reality. When someone with Youngboy's influence posts emotional messages, the reactions aren't normal. Fans don't just comment, they mobilize, they defend, they escalate. And that's what made this situation sensitive from the start. He wasn't just tweeting into the void, he was venting in front of millions. Every word became fuel, every line became a headline. But none of that was the real turning point. Oh, the turning point came when someone from outside his circle decided to respond. And that's when advice turned personal. Here's where everything shifted. It wasn't a diss track. It wasn't a direct confrontation. It was a comment. Under one of Youngboy's emotional posts, Dejounte's father stepped in. And on the surface, what he said didn't sound crazy. He talked about how money doesn't guarantee happiness. He suggested finding peace outside of fame. He even mentioned therapy. It read like advice from an older man watching a younger one struggle. In a normal setting, that might have been harmless. But this wasn't normal. This wasn't some random elder speaking into the void. This was the father of the NBA star currently dating Youngboy's ex. The same woman tied to years of history, kids, and unresolved emotion. Context changes everything. From Youngboy's perspective, this wasn't guidance. It felt like analysis, like someone from the other side publicly evaluating him, like a rival camp looking down and diagnosing him in front of the world. And in street culture, public analysis can feel like public disrespect. It wasn't just what was said, it was who said it, and where it was said. Social media is a stage. Comments aren't private, they're performances. And when someone connected to your personal life comments on your mental state in front of millions, it doesn't feel like concern, it feels like exposure. That's when pride enters the room, because once ego gets involved, logic usually exits. The comment didn't contain threats, it didn't contain insults, but in the wrong emotional climate, even calm words can feel like a challenge. Niche and Youngboy doesn't ignore challenges. This is the moment the temperature shifted. Youngboy didn't ignore the comment. He didn't laugh it off. He didn't post a vague subtweet. He responded directly. And it wasn't calm. He told him he'd get slapped. He said, "Don't bother me." He warned that things would start if it continued. The tone wasn't emotional anymore. It was territorial. That's the key difference. When someone goes from venting about loneliness to issuing warnings, that's not the same energy. The vulnerability disappeared. The street persona came back. And in that world, phrases like, "You'll get slapped," don't get interpreted as jokes, especially when the person saying it has a reputation. Now here's where people started panicking, because Youngboy doesn't just represent himself. He represents 4KT, and when fans hear coded language tied to that name, they don't treat it lightly. Even if nothing physical happens, the implication alone is heavy. And once that response went viral, the internet did what it always does. It amplified it. Screenshots spread, blogs reposted it. Fans chose sides. The narrative went from concerned father gives advice to threat issued. That escalation happened fast, but here's what made it worse. Instead of letting it cool down, the father responded again, and that's when a serious mistake entered the chat. If the threat changed the energy, this moment made people nervous. Instead of stepping back, Dejounte's father responded with a video. He tried to explain himself. He said he meant no harm. He said he was speaking as an elder. He even gave Youngboy credit as a talented artist. And that could have been the end of it. But then, he did something that in certain circles is considered reckless. He mentioned where he was, Hawaii, and not just casually. He basically said, "If you have a problem, come say it to my face." Now, to regular people, that sounds like confidence, like standing your ground, like saying you're not afraid. But in street culture, publicly stating your location after a threat isn't brave. It's dangerous. That's why the clip of people yelling, "Don't drop the low," started circulating. Because the moment someone with an aggressive reputation feels challenged, a location becomes more than geography, it becomes a target. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if Youngboy never intended to act on anything, once fans and affiliates hear that kind of exchange, you can't fully control how it spreads. Because pride mixed with public humiliation mixed with social media is volatile. Now you've got a professional NBA player in the middle of it. You've got kids connected to both sides. You've got millions watching. And suddenly what started as advice has escalated into a situation people are treating like it could spill offline. Whether it actually does or not isn't the point. The point is this. Once a location enters the conversation, the tone changes completely. And now this isn't just about words. It's about consequences. Here's why people didn't treat that threat like normal internet talk. It's the name attached to it. When Youngboy speaks, he doesn't just speak as a rapper. He speaks as someone tied to 4KT, a brand, a movement, a crew that has built its reputation on loyalty and intensity. Now, let's be clear. There's a huge difference between online hype and real-life action, but perception matters. And the perception around 4KT is that they don't play when it comes to respect. That's why fans were yelling, "Don't drop the low," not because something had already happened, but because they understand how narratives grow in that world. Youngboy's image has always been built on two things: emotional honesty and aggressive defense. He'll cry on Twitter one minute and threaten someone the next. That unpredictability makes people nervous. And when you mix that with a crew known for moving with him, it adds weight to every word. Now think about it from the outside. You're an NBA player. You're focused on your career. You're building something stable, and suddenly your father is in a viral exchange with one of the most polarizing rappers in the industry, someone who has millions of loyal supporters. That's not light. Because even if nothing physical ever happens, the online wave alone can be overwhelming. Mentions explode, DMs flood, narratives spiral. And the scary part? Once fans start inserting themselves, it's no longer just two men arguing. It becomes a digital mob. That's what made this situation feel bigger than a comment section disagreement. Not because something already happened, but because people know how quickly things can spiral when ego, loyalty, and public embarrassment collide. And at this point, everyone involved had to realize something important. This wasn't just about advice anymore, it was about control. At this stage, it wasn't about therapy comments. It wasn't about Hawaii. It wasn't even about social media anymore. It became about pride. When someone feels embarrassed in public, especially someone who built their image on strength, they react differently. And Youngboy has always been sensitive to how he's perceived. Respect is currency in his world. Once that feels threatened, everything escalates. Now flip the perspective. From Dejounte Murray's father's side, he likely felt he was speaking as an elder, offering perspective, saying what a lot of older men think when they see younger ones venting publicly. In his mind, maybe it wasn't disrespect, maybe it was guidance. But pride doesn't care about intention, it cares about perception, and the perception here was dangerous. Youngboy likely saw it as someone from the other side, publicly diagnosing him. The father probably saw it as standing firm and not backing down. 2 egos, 2 generations, 1 very public platform. That's combustible. And the worst part about pride-driven conflicts, nobody wants to look weak by stepping back first. So instead of someone saying, "All right, this went too far," it became subtle chest puffing. Threats, responses, location drops, commentary videos, screenshots everywhere. The situation didn't explode physically, but it escalated socially. And here's what makes it more layered. Kids are involved. Real families are involved. Not just artists and athletes. That's what makes the energy heavier than a normal rap beef. Because when family enters the conversation, pride multiplies. Now, the real question wasn't who started it, it was who was mature enough to end it. And that's where things get interesting. And here's the part most people are glossing over. This isn't just a rapper and an older man arguing online. There's an NBA franchise attached to this. Dejounte Murray isn't just somebody's boyfriend. He's a professional athlete under contract. He represents a team, a league, sponsors, and a brand. The NBA doesn't like controversy, especially not anything that smells like street escalation. So while the internet was debating who was right and who was wrong, there were probably quieter conversations happening behind the scenes. Because when your name starts trending next to threats and location talk, that's not harmless. That's risk. From Murray's perspective, this is tricky. He didn't comment, he didn't escalate, but he's connected. And in high-profile spaces, connection alone is enough to bring attention. And attention is pressure. Oh, now imagine being him in this situation. You're focused on your season. You're building something serious in your career. And suddenly your father's name is in blogs tied to someone known for volatile reactions. That's uncomfortable. Not because something already happened, but because of what people think could happen. And perception affects endorsements, media narratives, locker room energy, public image. This is where celebrity beef stops being entertainment and starts becoming business, because brands don't want instability. The league doesn't want headlines mixing athletes with threats. And the moment it becomes a distraction, it becomes a problem. So now this isn't just about pride or advice, it's about who has more to lose if it keeps going. And when real careers are involved, escalation usually cools off fast. But the internet doesn't cool off. It keeps replaying the clip, it keeps debating the tweets, and it keeps asking the same question. Was this preventable? Here's the uncomfortable truth. 10 years ago, this never leaves the barbershop. An older man gives advice. A younger man feels disrespected. Maybe there's tension behind closed doors, but it stays private. Now, one comment turns into screenshots. Screenshots turn into blogs. Blogs turn into reaction videos. And within hours, the entire internet is treating it like a war announcement. That's the era we're in. The most dangerous part isn't even the original comment, it's the amplification. Because once something trends, ego gets involved, fans pick sides, people start tagging, people start instigating. How you going to respond? You going to let that slide? Drop the location. Stand on business. And suddenly, what could have been a 1-minute disagreement turns into a pride contest in front of millions. And pride online is louder than pride in real life. For someone like NBA Youngboy, who already has a reputation for reacting emotionally when he feels cornered, the internet pressure only adds fuel. Every quote tweet, every repost, every exaggerated headline makes it feel bigger than it actually is. Now add this layer. Algorithms reward conflict. The more heated it looks, the more it spreads. And when it spreads, people start moving differently. Security tightens. Phone calls get made. People start thinking in worst-case scenarios, even if nothing ever happens. That's how spirals work. Not because someone necessarily plans violence, but because perception creates tension, and tension creates bad decisions. This whole situation is a case study in how quickly things escalate when emotions meet exposure. Nobody had to physically do anything for this to feel explosive. All it took was a comment, a response, and an audience. And now the question isn't who's right or wrong, it's who's mature enough to let it die before it grows legs. Here's where this gets deeper than just one comment and one response. This is really about ego, because if you strip away the tweets, the threats, the reactions, what you're left with is a man who felt publicly analyzed and another man who felt publicly challenged. And when ego gets involved, logic usually leaves the room. NBA Youngboy has built his entire image around strength, dominance, and not being played with. That's the brand. That's the energy. That's what fans expect. So when someone older steps in and basically says, "You need therapy, you need help, you're not emotionally healthy," that hits different. Not because therapy is an insult, but because being labeled unstable in public can feel like weakness, especially to someone whose entire identity is built on being untouchable. Now flip the lens. From an older father's perspective, he probably thought he was speaking wisdom. He saw a young, emotional man venting online and responded like an... In his mind, that might have been guidance, but intent doesn't always matter. Perception does. And perception in this case turned into tension. This is the crossroads between ego and evolution. One path says, "I can't let that slide. You mean I have to respond so nobody thinks I'm soft." The other path says, "That comment doesn't define me. I don't have to prove anything." That's the real battle happening here. Not YB versus an old head, but pride versus growth. And the scary part? Ego reacts fast. Evolution moves slow. The real question isn't whether someone will escalate, it's whether someone is mature enough to disengage. Because sometimes the strongest move isn't sending a message, it's refusing to entertain one. When grown men argue online, it doesn't just stay online, it spills over. Because now this isn't just about tweets, it's about families, it's about kids, it's about reputations that took years to build. Dejounte didn't post the comment, his father did. But in situations like this, separation doesn't really exist. When a name gets mentioned, and everyone connected to it feels the ripple, that's the reality of public drama tied to street. And now there's pressure on all sides. From Youngboy's side, there's pressure to stand on what was said. In certain environments, backing down isn't seen as maturity. It's seen as weakness, and image matters, especially when your fan base expects intensity. From the Murray side, there's pressure to protect family. Because when someone says, "You'll get slapped publicly," even if it's just words, it lands heavier when the speaker has a history of real-world consequences behind their name. But here's what makes this situation fragile. None of this needed to happen. One comment turned into a threat. One emotional moment turned into potential real-life tension. And the people who would suffer most if something escalates aren't the men arguing. It's the kids connected to them. It's the women trying to move forward. It's careers that could be disrupted by something that started with a tweet. That's the dangerous part about pride mixed with public platforms. Once it's out there, it's out there. Now the only real question is who chooses to cool it down first. Because escalation rarely benefits anyone in the long run. Now everything slows down. Because after the tweets, after the responses, after the clips start circulating, reality sets in. What happens next depends on one thing: who decides this isn't worth it anymore. Youngboy has a history of reacting fast when he feels disrespected. That's not new, but he's also in a different position now. Legal pressure, career momentum, eyes watching every move. One wrong decision doesn't just become gossip, it becomes headlines, watched investigations, and consequences. On the other side, Dejounte has an NBA career to protect. Multi-million-dollar contracts, team expectations, league standards. The NBA does not play when it comes to off-court drama. Even being loosely connected to escalating street tension can create conversations behind closed doors. And then there's the father. Most likely he goes quiet. No more lives, no more location drops, no more commentary. Because once you realize the temperature of the room, the smartest move is lowering it. Here's the realistic outcome. This cools off publicly. No one travels, no one moves, no dramatic retaliation, just silence. Maybe a vague tweet weeks later, maybe nothing at all. But the bigger shift? Trust changes. Boundaries get clearer, and everybody involved learns a lesson about speaking on someone else's emotional moment, especially when that someone built their image on not tolerating disrespect. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't escalation, it's choosing not to respond again. Now, the ball is in everyone's court.